Here's a thought experiment. Imagine for a moment you are sitting, watching a video entitled Philosophy and the Panopticon. Pretend also that the video is about the fact that electronic surveillance data is being gathered on every move you make from the time you get up in the morning until you go to bed at night. For the purposes of this thought experiment, ask yourself how you would feel if you knew that almost all the activities you engage in every day are captured by various methods. Surveillance cameras, records of electronic transactions, and internet traffic logs. Interested parties, whether they're governmental, advertising, or just curious individuals, can gain access to views of the streets you walk, the exterior of the office building where you work, and even the house where you live. They know where you buy either on the internet or in shops by electronic transactions. Ask yourself how you would feel if, without your knowledge or permission, those who are interested can find out which movies you've rented, which magazines you read, which websites you visit, and how often you visit them. Also, what if your data is just one profile in a vast electronic, computer, and bureaucratic database? What if every time you used Google for an internet search or sent or received an email, you left a digital trail others could follow? As you've probably already guessed, this is not a far-fetched scenario. It's pretty much the world as we find it in the 21st century. And I made this video because I just signed up for Google+. Have you? If you have you ever felt apprehensive about the information that is electronically collected every time you move on the internet? Because I've thought about it lately, and it made me wonder what philosophy might have to say about the state of affairs right now. Perhaps the best place to start is with Jeremy Bentham, one of the founders of utilitarianism, which is the philosophical idea that we should aim for the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. Something that is slightly less well known is an unusual architectural program that he advocated. He called it the Panopticon. Though it was never built during his lifetime, the Panopticon is Bentham's vision for what he thought would be a scientifically designed maximum security prison. Circular in shape, the structure features a central tower with individual cells radiating outward uniformly like spokes in a wheel. The characteristic feature of this arrangement is that there is a complete asymmetry of knowledge, and hence power. The guards in the central tower can see into any cell at any time, but due to special blinds, the inmates cannot see the guards or know if they are being watched at any specific moment. Bentham was a social reformer, genuinely believing that social order and control could foster a prisoner's internalized sense of right and wrong. He thought that the idea that the prisoners were being observed by unseen eyes would make them behave in socially acceptable ways. He also believed that the idea behind the Opticon could be utilized in schools, factories, and hospitals. It's ironic that he could never have imagined how his idea has been put into use in the form of internet surveillance. Bentham was serious when he claimed that morals could be reformed, health preserved, industries invigorated, instructions diffused, and all brought about by a central idea in architecture. Not everyone was as optimistic as Bentham. When Bentham's contemporary Edmund Burke saw the plans for the Panopticon. He called it a spider in the web. The postmodernist philosopher Michel Foucault contended that the nature of the one-way surveillance in the Panopticon, what he referred to as the gaze, resulted in an imbalance of knowledge and therefore of power. Ultimately, Foucault argued the omniscient surveillance created conditions whereby the observed themselves became instruments of their own suppression. So whereas Bentham viewed his Panopticon technology as something for reforming human beings, Foucault saw a method for creating what he called docile bodies. Foucault writes that the major function of the Panopticon is to induce a state of conscious and permanent visibility that assures the automatic functioning of power, so as to arrange things that the surveillance is permanent in its effect, even if it is discontinuous in its action, that the perfection of power should tend to render its actual use unnecessary, that this architectural apparatus should be a machine for creating and sustaining a power relation independent of the person who uses it. In short, that the inmates should be caught up in a power situation of which they themselves are the bearers. For Foucault, who died in 1984, the Panopticon was the result of the misuse of power permeating modern institutions from government to corporations. With the accelerated use of digital surveillance technologies within modern democratic states, are we in danger of creating an electronic panopticon? And would this necessarily be a bad thing? Jeremy Bentham would say no, as a utilitarian who once famously described civil and natural rights as nonsense on stilts. Bentham might argue that the greatest good for the greatest number outweighed quaint notions about human dignity. If the Panopticon principle can guarantee peace, order, and stability in social affairs, and unlike Orwell's nightmarish vision of Big Brother, the modern surveillance state is turning out to be like an electronically moderated consumer paradise or Disney World, where people are seduced into conformity, not forced. If so, perhaps there's a sense that each of us, insofar as we approve of and acquiesce in the continued construction of the surveillance state, might want to take time to analyze Foucault's criticisms of the Panopticon principle and to remind ourselves how we can evaluate what we stand to lose by giving over powers to the surveillance state. Because continuous surveillance tends to promote self-censorship, it breeds conformity, it is against creativity. It eliminates deviancy, but that also means it eliminates eccentricity and exceptionalism. And through surveillance, the state promises to answer so many of our needs that at least one need it cannot answer may be lost. That is, the need to be alone in peace, to think and act as we desire. There are, I hope, helpful links in the low bar. Thanks a lot for listening. Take care of yourselves. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.